All right. So, and I'm just gonna kind of like clear something out as it relates to institutional investors or institutional banks and retail investors, me and you, the mom and pops, the Victors, the Sharons, the Kevins, the Charleses, my kids, your kids, our families. There's a big distinction between that. So if you think about, let's say, hedge funds, private equity companies, institutional banks, BlackRock, $11 trillion in assets under management. $11 trillion in assets under management. They own everything globally. Vanguard, they're at $10 trillion as of I think it was January. They're at $10.4 trillion in assets under management. Harvard endowment funds at $50 billion in assets under, and their endowment funds $50 billion. They're arguing about it right now because Trump cut them off, and everyone was like, "No, you can't do that." So, anyways, then when you look at CalPERS, which is California Employment Pension Fund or however that's called, like they have $300 billion in assets under management. Why? Because they are betting that when you retire, they have to put that money to work. There is so much money out there. JP Morgan, they're at $3 trillion in assets under management. There's so much money out there. And then there's us, the retail investors. We don't get access to the same assets they do. Why? Because no one wants to step up and go after those assets. I am. That's what Bell Capital's for. I don't want to go after the leftovers and the scraps. I don't want to be a little guy anymore. I've played that game. It sucks. I can tell you, my eye-opening experience was when we had a small portfolio of properties in Hawaii and we refinanced them. We took money out, I paid back my investors, and we stayed in the deal. Later, when we sold it for $700,000 each of those assets over and above. And during that time we waited, we got cash flow. We took out that first money that was non-taxable, and then later we sold and we basically tripled. We had a quadruple, but it was a triple. Blew my mind. And I was like, I'm never playing that other game again. I knew the game, but it was different when you see it, you hear about it, you hear about trillions of dollars and how institutional banks and investors and endowments how they play the game. That's the game that they play. They're not playing the same game. They're not running the same playbook that we got taught. Save your money, put your money in the bank, go to college, work hard, get a job, buy a house, be stuck for 30 years. That is not the wealthy playbook. And I'm going to go over what the game that they play just to scratch the surface. And I'll go over it a lot more, but I wanted to kind of go through this and really separate this because it's important when you start understanding when I talk about institutional investors or investors, we're not talking about the same people sometimes. It's not your grandma and your grandpa, your mom and your dad and what they did. We're talking about banks. Jamie Dimon is not going to take your phone call. You got to have $1 billion liquid. You need $100 million to just get a meeting at JP Morgan, or you need at least $10 million just to get a checking account. And you got to wait. You got to be on the list. It's different. It's a different game. Now, even if you have that, that don't mean you're able to play the game because a lot of times the big people at the top of Wall Street exclude the little guy out of the game. That's not, I'm not saying it's not fair, but it ain't fair. You can't bitch about, like, don't complain about, don't hate the player, hate the game. Once you can understand the rules of the game, you can play the game better and you can become a player. And it's a long game. All right.